But what can help good and great people to be humble? I want to suggest that this is a role that the critic can play. And I want now to flesh out these roles by asking you to consider a few stories with some tragic elements that feature critical figures. The first and most tragic is Shakespeare's King Lear. I want to think about three types of critics in this play. The tragedy of Lear begins. It begins when he invites his three daughters to tell him how much they love him, so that he can, according to how much they say they love him, give each of them a suitable part of his kingdom. Goneril waxes lyrical about her love for her father, the king. Then Regan manages even to outdo her sister in expressing her love for the king, her father. But when it's the turn of Lear's third daughter, Cordelia, who in fact loves him the most, and whom he loves the most, she refuses to engage in flattery and probably assumes that her father is wise enough to recognize authenticity and distinguish that from fakery. She is tragically mistaken. For Lear, in his vanity, is instead deeply insulted by her truthfulness, and he becomes resentful. In a rage, he casts her out of his kingdom and divides this kingdom between the two manipulative daughters instead. Now, before too long, here's the most tragic part of it, Goneril and Regan strip their father of the trappings of his power and cast him out into the wilderness, where he descends into madness. I am reminded of an article I wrote in 2009, in which I analyzed the oddly violent language that the PAP government had used in its extended reprimand of novelist Catherine Lim, after she had written commentaries suggesting that the Singapore government no longer enjoyed the affection of its people. It was then puzzling to me why such an innocent comment would have elicited such a ferocious response. Perhaps if I had thought about King Lear then, it might have been clearer. I'm also reminded of what Professor Tommy Koh said not very long ago about how Singapore does not need sycophants, but loving critics. So other than the sycophantic critic and the loving critic, King Lear also offers us a vision of the fool as critic. The fool, or the court jester, is really the only one licensed to make fun of the king. In other words, to speak truth to power, as it were. A powerful king understands the importance of being grounded and empowers the fool to keep him well informed and in check. In the play, Lear is entertained by his fool, but apparently fails to hear the wisdom behind the jokes. And when it is too late, the fool disappears altogether from the play. Let me suggest that there is a role for the fool in the Singapore government. And this role is in fact played by the various officers and agencies whose task it is to think strategically and in the long term. In 1995, the Scenario Planning Office was formed within the Prime Minister's office to perform exactly such a service. Like the fool, who delivers sometimes very uncomfortable truths by channeling them through wit and humor, the SPO could also communicate unorthodox, unsettling, and challenging ideas to the authorities through formalized techniques of scenario planning. And this is exactly what they did. Their first national scenarios, delivered in 1997, described two plausible futures. The first, titled Hotel Singapore, envisioned a city where people would not sink real rooms, but merely treat the city as a place to profit from and to pass through. The second, titled A Home Divided, saw a future Singapore that lacked social cohesion, divided along race, religion, language, class, and other social lines. Now, we've had almost 30 years of foresight work in Singapore. A lot of it is not open to the public. I do wonder if, unlike Lear, our leaders found these kinds of scenarios more than just entertaining.